Hello there, welcome to Inkquiring Minds. My name is Doug and I'm back with another Pen Resurrection Sunday video. And what better day to do a resurrection video on a Sunday but Easter Sunday, Resurrection Day. Well, it's Resurrection Day for this pen anyway. Whatever your affiliations and denominations, whether you worship Parker or Schaefer or Waterman, this is one of my favorite pens to resurrect. It is a Parker 51 Vacumatic from 1946, and this pen was manufactured in the United States, but the parts were sent to Canada in Toronto, and it was assembled there for distribution in Canada. And there's a special code in the date stamp that we'll see in a moment that shows me that that is the case. And this is also one of my favorite resurrection type of pens, because this pen might look like it's in horrible shape, but it's actually resurrectable, if that's a word. Some pens are broken beyond repair, the nibs are snapped, and short of nib replacement, they can't be restored. Some are broken in the body and can't be pieced back together again, that kind of thing. But this is an eminently resurrectable fountain pen right here. That gold cap looks really horrible right now with all that tarnish. But if you've been watching my channel at all, you'll know that gold is gold. And gold can be polished back to sparkling beauty again, especially when it's deep gold, like we find on the caps and hardware of many of the mid-century Parker fountain pens. Gold filled, this one is 1/10, 16 karat gold, made in the USA. And that also tells me this clip is on backwards. That should be at the back, but that will polish up nicely. So join me, won't you, while I resurrect this 1946 Parker 51 Vacumatic. And for those of you that can't wait and want to see what the pen looks like before and after, here it is before restoration, and I'll show what it looks like after resurrection below. There, now that those people are gone, I'll enjoy sharing this resurrection with the 10 people that are remaining. Hi guys. So let's triage this pen and see what it will take to come back to the land of the living and the writing. So the body of this pen is black, the cap is gold filled, the clip is the blue diamond split arrow type, beautiful Art Deco, and it needs a little bit of TLC because it's got a bit of a bend in it as well. The top finial is the pearlescent type, which holds the clip in place, and the cap has many courses of vertical lines engraved into it. It's a typical design on the Parker 51. And the end of the cap says, see if we can get close here, 1/10, 16K, gold filled, made in the USA. And that clip should actually be on this side because that engraving should be on the back. The barrel has lots of abrasion on it, no deep gouges or bite marks. That blind cap looks almost pristine, lots of wear. And it comes off, and there's a bit of spring to this, so it feels like there might be a diaphragm in there that's functioning. I haven't tried it yet. Let's pull the cap off. Clutch ring is in good shape. The section hood has lots more abrasion on it than the barrel, and that nib looks like it's a fine, and it looks in really good shape. Must have had some black ink in it, and that hood is solid in there. Let's take a look at the imprint. See if we can get up close and read it. It says Parker 51 in quotes, made in the USA, and there's the date code right there, and it is a T6 with 2 dots. So that means it's the second quarter of 1946, and the T stands for Toronto. So this pen was assembled and distributed for sale in Canada out of the Toronto Parker plant. So I'm just going to go see whether this will suck up any water. Excuse me for a minute. And the answer is no, not really. So if there is a diaphragm in there, it's detached from the pump rod, 0.35 milliliters of ink, and it should be at more like 1.4, 1.5 milliliters of ink. Well, there's lots of old ink in there anyway. And it looks like whoever used this pen last liked blue-black ink. So now what we're going to do is we're going to take these 3 pieces, we're going to put them in my ultrasonic cleaner, in a bath of homemade pen flush, which is 9 parts distilled water and 1 part ammonia. And we'll let it agitate there. It wants to get away. And we'll let it agitate there for 2 to 3 minutes. And then we'll come back and try to get that hood off with a little bit of heat. So while the cap is still sitting in the ultrasonic bath, agitating away, I'm going to try to get this hood off of here with some heat. Now, Parker 51s were made of lucite, which is a much more resilient material than celluloid. Celluloid melts and deforms fairly easily under heat, so you have to be extremely careful. But lucite is a little bit more resilient and requires a little bit more heat. But again, heating is a long process of heating and trying and heating and trying and getting it just to the point where that adhesive, if there is any adhesive, if this is an original unrestored Parker 51 from the factory, they would have put a little bit of an adhesive on those threads to hold that hood on and to seal that section, and that will come away with some heat. But we don't want to get so hot that we're going to deform this lucite. So that's why you heat it a little bit and you test it, and you heat it a little bit and you test it. So I'll do this rather quickly with the aid of video magic and video editing, but this might take, sometimes it's taken me a couple of days of soaking and heating and soaking to get that adhesive to let go. So don't be fooled by the 30 seconds here. There we go. Yeah, that didn't take much at all. So I doubt that there's any adhesive on this. Then this might have been disassembled before and put back without any adhesive. I don't see any shellac on there at all. That was all just old dried up ink. There we go. And there is a lot of it. This blue-black. You can see there's the collector and the nib. Let's see if we can twist this out. Yes, we can. There we go. There's our breather tube. And the breather tube is made of celluloid. You can see that amber color is celluloid. Let's withdraw the breather tube there. We'll probably blow that remaining ink out of there. Yep, there we go. So that'll go back in the bath. And there's our nib. We should be able to withdraw the nib and the feed from the collector. Again, I'm just using gripper material and I'm pushing my knuckles together and pulling with my fingers. There we go. So there's the nib right there. And the nib says, it says Parker made in the US, RUPL on one side, which is ruthenium, I think palladium, and 1945. But this is 14 karat gold, this nib. And let's pull the feed out of the collector. There we go. And there's our Ebonite feed. We'll polish that up as well. And there's our collector, still with a little bit of ink, but that should come clear fairly easily. It looks like it's in really, really good shape. And there's the hood. And there's the barrel. And we can use our inspection camera to go down inside the barrel and inspect to see what remains of that latex diaphragm. I'm going to push it 2 or 3 times and take a look. Yeah, and that shows me that that pump has a latex diaphragm in it, but it's ineffective. It's all bunched up on itself. So we're going to put all these parts back in the ultrasonic bath and let them agitate for 2 to 3 minutes. And then I'll come back and see whether I can extract that Vacumatic pump with my vac extractor tool. And while those parts are buzzing away in the ultrasonic, I'm going to take a look at the cap, which has been sitting in the ultrasonic for about 3 minutes or so. And it's already looking a little bit brighter. Some of that tarnishing is coming away. But I wanted to show you, this isn't what I'm going to do, but I wanted to show you what a jeweler's polishing cloth can do with this. I'm going to polish this once I've taken the clip off. I'm going to polish this on my buffer wheel with some metal cleaner and some polishing compound. But I wanted to show you what a jeweler's polishing cloth can do to gold. You can get these on Amazon, and they have a bit of a rubbing compound kind of material in them. It's like a jeweler's rouge that makes them effective on gold and silver. Let's just take the front and rub it a little bit. I'm not going to time lapse this at all. I'm just going to talk while I'm rubbing. Yes, I can do 2 things at the same time. I can pat my head and rub my belly at the same time. Look at all the black that's coming off there. That's a lot of that is tarnish because it's like a dirty black, but when it goes black, it's gold. I'm going to turn the polishing cloth over and rub it some more, and you can see that it's starting to come up, and that tarnish is starting to be removed. My Dremel tool polishing buffer wheel is going to do a little bit better job of that. But the first thing I want to do to make it easier to polish this cap is to take off the clip. And the clip is held on by a jewel. In 1946, I'm pretty sure that this jewel is inside a brass nut, which screws the clip down to the cap. We have to take off the jewel at the top first, and then get at that brass nut with a screwdriver. So usually I can use a pencil as a mandrel just to push down on it, and use some rubber shelving mat and unscrew that top jewel. And it's not wanting to come. So I'm going to try a little bit of heat there, just a little bit. This is plastic, so it will melt. The metal gets very hot. I'm just going to place a card under the clip so when I turn the clip, it doesn't scratch the cap and make it worse. It's really stuck. Yeah, it's coming free. So just a little bit of heat and a lot of pressure, and there's that jewel. That'll polish up last. And there is that nut, that brass nut with a slot in it. And I can use a slot screwdriver, use a mandrel again to press, and we can unscrew that cap like the clip wants to go with it. There we go. So now you can further disassemble these caps by removing that clutch on the inside. Maybe you can just see that clutch on the inside. There's a clutch extraction tool, which I don't own, but when you take that clutch out, it can affect how well the slip cap works. So I tend to try to avoid that. The reason you need the clutch out is to get at that cap liner if you need to replace it. You can see the cap liner has sunken down inside there. Push it up with the pencil, and you can see it right up the top there now. So it's sliding around in there. So now that it's sliding around, I might put this back in the bath to get any extraneous ink out of that cap and let it sit for a while. It'll also help remove some of that tarnish. But now that we've got the clip out, and this looks like it's, instead of a brass substrate, it might be silver. Interesting. But I can straighten that clip a little bit, and I can polish it. Now, while I'm polishing this clip, let's look at it over here before it's been polished up, and then I'll show it over here afterwards. But while I'm polishing that clip, that blue diamond right there might get lost in the polishing process. But I do have a blue enamel from Testers that matches that blue exactly. And so one of the final things I'll do to restore this pen is to replace that blue diamond by painting it in, letting it dry. It usually takes about 24 hours for that enamel to dry, so I can scrape the edges clear. But for now, all this stuff will go back in the bath again for 2 or 3 minutes, and I can hear that the ultrasonic has stopped, so I'm going to go retrieve that barrel and see whether I can get the vac pump out. So here we are with the Parker vac extractor from the Inky Nib, and this is the greatest tool for removing a vac from a Parker Vacumatic. The tool does the squeezing, so you don't have to. You take out the collet, you put it on the end of the vac pump, you tighten the collet down as tight as it will go, like that. And it's squeezing on that thread now, so you don't have to. The other tools, you have to squeeze on it and turn at the same time. So now I can use this to heat the barrel to release that thread. It allows the lucite to expand a little bit and extract the pump. The other thing it does is it protects that celluloid pump rod, which is very susceptible to heat. So that pump rod will melt if you get heat anywhere near it. So I'm going to try to, first of all, turn this without any heat. No. And then we're going to apply a little bit of heat and test and heat and test. This might look like it's only taking a little bit of time, but it is time-lapse. Magic of video. There we go. Yep, now it's loose. So I'm just going to put a couple of those threads back on again. We're going to release the collet here. And I'm going to get out my block and find a hole that will hold the barrel and use the rod to just press the remainder of that diaphragm out of there. So let go of those few threads. If I just pull on this, it's going to snap that celluloid rod. So we don't want that. We just want to press on it from the top to let that latex let go, because it's kind of pressed up on the inside of that barrel. That's the way it seals it. I'll put it here and give it a little bit of a push, and there we go. A little bit of a push, and it pushes the rest. See how that latex is holding on there? And that's what that latex diaphragm looked like on the inside of the barrel. It was all curled up on itself and ineffective, and it's all sticky as well. So I'm just going to pull this out. You can see it had broken off. Get rid of my mitts here. It had broken off from the edge and just balled up on itself. So it was just pushing this ball up and down. So that remaining latex right there can be peeled off. It's just like a sticky balloon. There we go. And sometimes if you pull, this is really soft. So sometimes if you pull this out, it'll pull that pellet out from the receptacle. No, it just pulled right off. Yuck, it's gooey. But the pellet retainer looks really good. It's Ebonite, and the diaphragm pellet is still on the inside of that pellet retainer. So I'll get out my mini drill and we'll drill that out and hook it out with a dental pick. But the barrel can now go back in the bath, and then I will inspect it and clean it out with a test tube cleaning brush on my drill to make it nice and spick and span. So here's my Dremel tool with a very tiny drill bit, and I'm going to drill a hole in that little pellet right there and then hook it out with my dental tool and put them both horizontally on my desk and hold them firmly so I don't damage that Ebonite pellet retainer. Now let's see whether I can pick that out of there. No, I didn't really even get at the ball. It was all latex. I have to put my magnifier eyes on for this. Oh, look at that. It came right out on the tip of the drill bit. That's never happened before. That was easy. And the retainer looks in perfect shape. Good. And now we can replace that diaphragm with a new one and reinstall that pump in the barrel. So now I've got the barrel all cleaned up. I cleaned the inside of the barrel with a plastic test tube cleaning brush, which I attached to my drill, and a little bit of pen flush. And it's clean as a whistle. There's no remaining latex from that diaphragm in that barrel. And I've got a new latex diaphragm ready to go. This is a Deb size. All Parker 51s take the Deb size Parker Vacumatic diaphragms. And we're going to use my pellet pusher tool from the Inky Nib to push that pellet into the pellet retainer. And then we're going to fold this diaphragm back like origami and make it into the proper diaphragm pump. The latex diaphragm has to be cut to a particular dimension, and that dimension is 30 millimeters from the pellet to the cut, and that is conveniently etched into my pellet pusher tool by Scott. Thank you, Scott. That makes it really easy. You don't have to measure anything. And so you just push it up there, find where that groove is, right there, and I use my X-Acto blade to make a cut, and then I snip it with my scissors. This time I'll keep my finger out of the way, he said. There's that mark I made. And we put it back on. You see I'm probably a little bit long, so I can trim a little bit off. Let's try that. That's just about right. Right up against the pellet. And then we can push the pellet into the pellet retainer with a slight push and hope we'll get a click instead of a crack. And it clicked nicely. So that is retained. Good. But now I'm going to add a little bit more because now we have to peel it back on itself. And this is always the tricky part. Never know whether it's going to take a long time or a short time. I've tried various techniques. Some work really nicely until they don't. And when they don't, they just don't. Some just become uncooperative. So we're going to put that pellet pusher right up against that pellet, and then we're going to push the latex diaphragm back onto itself to make it have a little bit of a cuff like that. And having the pellet pusher in there gives you something to push against, and it just slides on itself to have that directly up against there so you have some surface to push it on. And I just kind of worry it with my thumbnail. So my thumbnail's quite useful for more than just playing guitar. And when it gets to the point like that, I try to see if I sort of double it up onto itself and to try to push that outer layer over the inner layer and get it onto that aluminum seat. Now it's doubled up on itself right now, and that's no good, but I want to use the pump itself to push and pry and cajole that pump to release itself from itself without tearing it. It's getting there. There we go. Whoop, there we go. Kind of kinked up on itself. There, that's what it should look like. It should look like a mouth opening and closing. This is just like the diaphragm in your abdomen. When you breathe, it pulls down and pushes up and expands and contracts your lungs. This does the same thing, but with ink on the inside of the barrel. Now, in order to put this in the barrel, we need to put a little bit of silicone oil on the leading edge of that diaphragm cuff, just so that it will turn inside and not kink up on itself. And so I'm just going to grab on to the seat here so it doesn't twist the diaphragm off, and just twist back and forth until I get it to engage. And once we get it here, put a single thread on, and then some silicone oil here as well. Get out the collet, and I'm just going to tighten it down lightly, and then use the vac extractor tool to just work that oil back and forth on those threads, just so that it doesn't bind anywhere and possibly crack the barrel. So it should move in easily. Grab a little gripper rubber mat and just hand tight. Then we can let go of the barrel, let go of the collet, and that feels right. But now I want to inspect it with my inspection camera and give it a couple of pumps, and we see that that's working nicely. So I'm going to use a little Meguiar's Miraglaze 9 Professional Swirl Remover 2.0. It's an automotive polishing compound. And my Dremel tool here with a cotton buffer on it. I kind of get these in bulk from AliExpress, and I'm just putting a little bit of the polishing compound on the Ebonite feed. This is very, very fragile. Cover it up a little bit so I don't get splashed in the face, and then we can turn up the speed and just let the buffer do the polishing. And there we go. Very shiny. Put it in the pen flush ultrasonic just to get all that polish off it. Now I've switched to my dirty polishing buffer because that's been polishing gold, so it's all black. And I'll just take the top off of a Q-tip and put that inside the nib and just bend it a little bit. It gives me a little bit more purchase power holding this down. And I'm going to use Autosol metal polish just as a polishing compound for metal, and we'll buff this up. And I go slow to start so it doesn't splash me. And that's all the part that you really need to polish because that's all that's visible. But I like to have the whole thing polished up. So I'm going to reverse it here and get the imprint all polished up as well. And there we go. Now I'll go back in the bath for a bit to get a polish off it. And here is the feed, all polished up, bright and shiny Ebonite. And the collector is looking almost brand new. Look at that. And that's just 2 or 3 minutes in the ultrasonic bath. Beautiful. And the nib, there it is. Look at that. Beautiful. So now we can put the nib, the feed, and the collector back together again with the breather tube and put it back into the barrel now that the barrel's working. And this is really easy. We're just going to grab onto the nib and the feed, line them up first, just like that. Grip it top and bottom. And there are 2 channels in the collector. There's a broad channel and a narrow channel. You have to make sure that the broad channel is above. So I line up the narrow channel with the bottom line of that slit in the nib and give it a push. There, now the broad channel's on the top. Give it a bit of a polish to get my finger marks off it because I'm anal that way. And we hold on to the whole unit and put the breather tube back in. There we go. And then make sure that the nib is aligned with the feed because it can spin out of control there. And then we put the whole kit and caboodle back in the barrel. Now at this point we don't know where that lines up with the hood. So we put the hood on. Actually we need the clutch ring. The clutch ring was in the bath. Put the clutch ring on and then just put the hood on, and we'll see where it lines up. And then we use a thumb trick. So here's the hood tight. That's where the nib should be. It's got to be turned back. So I'm just going to leave my thumb pointing to where that nose of the hood is, and I'm going to remove the hood and turn the nib back to point to my thumb, roughly. We'll try it again. And it looks like I've overturned it by just a touch. So we turn it back a touch, and it still needs to go back a touch. I guess I only moved it half a touch. There, when it's really tight, that's perfect. We're going to have to take this all out again because I need to polish all this up, and I want the nib unit out while I'm doing that. So I'm going to take this off, and we're going to mark the barrel with that broad channel. I'm going to put my eyes on again for this, and I'm going to use my X-Acto blade, and I'm going to line it up with both sides of that broad channel and make a mark on both sides. That will not affect the performance of this pen, but it will give me an indication of where to put it back when I reassemble this. So now I can take that out, put that nib unit aside, put the clutch ring aside, put the blind cap on the barrel, and now I can polish the hood and the barrel. And I'm going to do them separately. When we put the blind cap on so that it is seamless when we sand it down. And I'm going to run through my micro mesh sanding pads from 1500 to 12,000 grit. And once I get to 12,000 grit, I'll put my magic glasses on again and show you how I use my Dremel tool to use polishing compound and an ultra fine plastic polish to polish these things to a showroom shine. So it's the next day. We had our Easter Sunday dinner with family yesterday, and I left some of this stuff sitting in the pen flush bath longer than I expected and longer than I wanted to. A lot of that tarnish has come off, and I'll get the rest of it off with polishing. But of course the blue diamond enamel came right off in the pen flush bath. But that's no worry for me. I can replace that. I expected it would come off with buffing and polishing anyway. So now I'm going to go to my buffer wheel with my magic glasses, and we'll see how well I can buff these pieces of hardware up. So let's put the cap here sort of before, because it was a lot darker than this before the pen flush bath. But we'll show what it looks like up here, and then we'll show the clip over here, what it looks like before polishing. And then we'll see them on the other side of the screen when they're polished up. Let's do it. Okay, this is what I was waiting for, to reveal the polished cap. Let's look at it down here. Look at that. Absolutely like brand new. You'd hardly believe that was the same cap, would you? There's the imprint right there where it says it's gold filled, and that was completely black. Look at that. Let's look at the clip as well. Here's the clip, all shiny and new. All it needs is that blue enamel inside that diamond, and it will be perfect. Look at that. Terrific. So now what we have to do is polish up the barrel and the hood. So see the barrel before. There we are. It's not too bad, actually. There's a little bit of a ridge between the blind cap and the barrel that will get polished out, and we'll avoid that imprint right there, so that will remain. But there's just a lot of abrasion and wear over the years. And now let's look at the hood up here. It's got a little bit more abrasion on it where it was meeting the clutch ring right there. So we'll polish that up as well and come back and put the pen back together and do some testing. So here we have Meguiar's Mirror Glaze 9 Professional Swirl Remover 2.0. I'm going to use that as the first pass of my polishing of this barrel, and then I'm going to move on to this Cardinal Pens Micro Gloss number 1. Very fine cut polishing compound as the finishing touch. Spread a thin layer over the barrel. This is a new cotton bud here. We have lots of fluff comes off it, and I'm just going to pass it over just to spread it all out. Then I'll increase the speed. And then we put a couple of drops of the Cardinal Pens, very fine cut micro polishing compound on the barrel. Spread it around and then increase the speed. looking pretty good. And we'll do the same thing for the hood. I've just stuck it on a pencil here. And we'll add a drop of the Cardinals. This is the micro, extra fine, ultra fine compound right here. That's looking pretty good. So here we are with the barrel and the hood all polished up. Look at that. You can't even see that seam. And the imprint is still intact right there. Looking very shiny indeed. And there's the hood. No marks on it whatsoever. Showroom condition. Terrific. So let's put this pen back together again. We're going to put the clutch ring on. There we go. And then we're going to line up our collector nib feed assembly with those notches that I made. Buenos notches. Those are good notches. And we're going to line it up with the large channel. Just barely see those marks. Now I know I'm lined up. I put the hood on and tighten it right down. There we go. Look at that. It's perfect. Now let's put the cap together with the clip. So I'm going to use that pencil again as a mandrel because it pushes the cap liner up and holds it in place. Now I'm going to put this clip on the opposite side of those imprints where it says made in the USA. So the opposite side of that is there. I think it lines up with a course. Does it? Let's see. Where it says gold. And that would be just about there. Push up on the pencil here. Hold the clip in place. Start the brass nut into the cap liner. And then use my slot screwdriver to tighten it down. Now before I tighten it down all the way, just going to check to see that that's correct. That looks just about right. So now I can push on the pencil and give the nut a solid turn. Then we put the jewel in to the nut and we use a little rubber matting to give it a nice turn. Polish off the finger marks. There we have the cap all assembled and the pen is together. We have to first of all test to see whether the Vac Pump is working correctly. So I'm going to test fill it with some water, and then I'm going to dip test the nib. So we're going to weigh the pen without any ink, 9.77, press tear, and then I'm going to fill it up with some water. And there we go. 1.75 milliliters of ink. Wow, that's the largest capacity I think I've ever gotten out of a Parker 51. Means I got the diaphragm perfectly sized, and I just kept pumping it in the water until I didn't see any more bubbles. So it was about 10 pumps, I think. So now I'll dump all the water out and we'll do a dip test of that nib. Now here we are with some Clairefontaine 90 GSM and some Waterman's Serenity Blue. And if you want to see how that Vacumatic pump works on the inside while it's being filled, take a look up here at this video that I made that shows how the Vac Pump works to fill this pen in a Parker 51 transparent demonstrator that I borrowed from Murray. That's a fascinating video. It shows how the siphon mechanism works. So we're just going to dip this pen and see what we have. First time for this nib. So this is 1946 Parker 51 Vacumatic, and I'd say this is a fine nib. These nibs never have any flexibility to speak of. Very, very stiff nibs. That tubular design makes that nib very stiff. Let's check the wetness here and see what it's like. Ooh, actually very nicely wet, and it's actually very smooth. Well, this is very nice. Yeah, there's a bit of feedback that I might polish out, but it's actually writing very nicely. So let's use our MM pad from Dominant Industries, and we will see what this line width is. So it's about a 0.3 on the horizontal and about a 4.4 on the vertical. So 0.3 to 0.4 millimeters, and that makes this a fine to an extra fine nib. But it's very juicy and very smooth. So I'm just going to use some 8,000 and 12,000 grit micro mesh here. Drop a little drop of water there on the 8,000 grit. I'm going to hold my writing position, my angle to the page. So I'm not going to do this or this. I'm going to move my wrist up and down, side to side, all points of the compass, 8 times each. Counterclockwise circles, clockwise circles, never moving my angle, doing infinity symbols and figure eights, 8 times each on this 8,000 grit and then I'll move to the 12,000. There we go. Now for the 12,000, same thing, rigid wrist. There we go. Now let's dip it again. Dip, dip, dip.
Dearest Augustine, I do hope this latest damp has not aggravated your gray lung. Dip, 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 dip.
Ooh, that's silky smooth. I like it a lot.
I like it a lot.
Now I'm going to fill in that diamond with my blue enamel paint, and we'll let the cap dry overnight. So here's my Testors 1111 GI Dark Blue, which is a perfect match for the Parker Blue Diamond enamel. And we're going to paint a little daub of that enamel paint into that golden diamond. And I've got my magnifier eyes on for this. There, that's all we need. You notice it spilled over the sides, but that's okay because once it's dry, I will scrape it with my X-Acto blade. So I'll let this dry for a day and then overnight. So it's about 24 hours later. And this is the intricate part. I'm going to take that extra bit of enamel and scrape it off with my X-Acto blade, and then we'll polish it. I need my big boy lenses. That's better. Unless we flip this one down. Okay, the camera's just in the way. So there it is with the edges scraped with my X-Acto blade. And now I'm just going to polish it with my jeweler's polishing cloth to smooth out the edges. And there we are with it all smoothed out. Looks pretty good if you ask me. And I did ask me. Now I'll come back with my thoughts about this resurrection. So what are my thoughts about this resurrection? Well, this is as close to perfect as it gets. This resurrection caused me very, very few problems. Everything came apart easily. Even the re-diaphragming of the pump was an easy thing to do. But the most satisfying part was how deeply tarnished and black this cap was, and how now it looks like it's absolutely brand new. So I did a pen resurrection just a couple of weeks ago with a pen that was very, very similar to this one. It was black and gold. It was from 1947. This one's from 1946. And that one was made in Canada, and this one was assembled in Canada. But that one had several dents on the cap, so I discounted the price on it. But this one is flawless. Even that blue diamond is looking perfect now as well. And this one takes a lot of ink. I was really surprised. I don't think I've seen this capacity of ink in a Parker 51 before. This is 1.75 milliliters of ink. To put that in perspective, this pen, this Leonardo Momento Zero Grande, takes 1.5 milliliters of ink as a piston filler and is enormous next to the Parker 51. And the nib on this one had a little bit of feedback, but I polished that out, and it's silky smooth and wet and writes out extra fine to a fine line. I like it a lot. It's almost a pen that I want to keep. I think the black and gold is a classic look, and these Parker 51s write first time, every time. They rarely dry out unless you let them sit in your desk for several weeks without using them. But if you use this as an everyday writer, it's going to have a large ink supply, so you're not going to be replacing the ink that often, but it can certainly be an everyday writer for someone. So I'm going to sell this Parker 51 Vacumatic for $180 US plus shipping. If you're interested in purchasing this pen, just write me at inkquiringminds@gmail.com with your name and your address so I can get you a shipping quote and instructions on how to pay PayPal. And there you have it, another one back from the dead. And if you like this video, please like and subscribe, and don't forget to ring that bell to get instant notifications whenever a new video is posted. And you can join as a member of my channel for only 99 cents a month, and I guarantee I'll answer your comments in the comment section. You'll get cool emojis, badges, sneak peek unboxing videos, as well as instant access to my videos the moment I post them, which will give you a leg up on everyone else for purchasing a pen like this. And basic members get 10% off, and patron level members at $5 a month get 20% off these pen purchases. And that just leaves it for me to say thank you. For watching. And that's all she wrote.
I made this.